And when my engineer came on the radio and told me we were 7th, I was like, are you serious? Did we finish there?
One of the worst things I hear is when people say that Formula One or motorsports is not considered a sport. What is your reaction to that?
Bulldog.
British Bulldog, just like Lewis Hamilton. Are we seeing a little bit of a pattern? We got the braids going on. Yevan David, a Sri Lankan F4 driver making his way to F1 at just 17 years old, he's making waves throughout the motorsport community. Welcome, Yevan David, to the Papare family. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So to start off with, firstly, you had an amazing Spanish Grand Prix. You started 25th and you made your way up to 7th place. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, that was a very good race. It was my last race 3 weeks ago in Aragon. And yeah, it was an absolutely epic race. Made up a lot of positions, was just in the zone, picking up people. And in the end, we finished 7th. And when my engineer came on the radio and told me we were 7th, I was like, are you serious? Did we finish there? But yeah, I was just really happy, had a clear mind and kept picking off people.
And now you're on the drive to become a Formula One driver. What ignited this passion for Formula One?
I've been driving and racing for a long time. I mean, I started back in 2014, started at Bradie-Miles actually, and I think I just had that natural passion and talent as well, and it's what I've wanted to do since I was 6 years old, and it's my goal for so long that I've just wanted to continue for a long time, and I still have that passion. So it all started back in 2014 when I drove a go-kart for the first time and fell in love.
Yes, and how did your journey start? Because we don't often hear about a lot of Sri Lankans making their way through the motorsports community. So what type of steps did you take?
Well, it started off in Bradie-Miles actually. My dad took me to the go-kart track and we tried driving for the first time. I was only 6 years old. And I just had like this passion and I wanted to go more. And we went a few more times to the track and I said, this is what I want to do. Can we get a go-kart and start? So my dad bought a go-kart and in 2014, I was living in Singapore at the time and we practiced every weekend at the track, getting quicker, learning the basics about go-karting. And I started my first race in 2015 when I was 7 years old. And
how was your first race? At just 7 years old?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, I was super excited. I can still remember it now. It's been 9 years, but I was just so excited. I just wanted to drive. I didn't think about it being a race too much because I just loved driving. And then my first year was very good. I had a couple overseas races, finished in the top 10 a few times, and I really enjoyed it. After that, I started to go to Europe and started to go abroad for a couple races, and that's where the career just kept on going.
Did you ever have a moment of realization that once you were in a car, you were like, wait a minute, I'm actually on the track, I'm actually driving and pursuing my dream? Did you ever have a moment of realization like that?
I think the first time I drove an F4 car coming out of karting, that's when I really realized, wow, this is incredible, because you feel like you're in a car, you know, it's a bit similar to F1 in a sense when you first start, and that's when I realized, I was like, wow, this is really coming true.
And fast forward, you're 17 now. What are the day-to-day challenges that you face as a racing driver?
I think as a driver, it's difficult to balance, you know, my studies with racing because I'm doing my A-levels now and it's a lot of balance, a lot of time management. So that's one of the biggest struggles. And also balancing personal life, like family and spending time with them. I have a lot of traveling to do and I go almost every week for races. So just spending time with them and balancing that. But it's challenges that I'm willing to face, so I'm quite happy with it.
And I mean, you're no ordinary student, right? So what are the types of stereotypes that you think you face as a racing driver or as a racing driver may face in general?
I think many things that, many stereotypes is that I only am a racing driver, I only think about racing, I only do stuff about racing, and I do a lot, to be fair, but I also have a personal life at home, you know. I love to play basketball, I love to go out and play golf with some friends, so one of the biggest stereotypes is that, but I do have my own life as well. I am my own personality, so it's like a lot of people can see that from when I post on Instagram and post on social media, so I'm quite happy with what I've done.
Now, as a Formula One fan myself, one of the worst things I hear is when people say that Formula One or motorsports is not considered a sport. What is your reaction to that?
I mean, I've heard it a lot of times now, and I've just kind of gotten used to it. I know that they're wrong, so I kind of just take it as it goes. I'm sure it lights a temper in you as well when you hear it.
Because frustrates me so much.
Yeah, because it is a sport. It's a very high elite sport as well. I mean, you see F1 drivers, the things they have to go through. So, but I mean, the sport the last few years, there's been so many new fans as well. I mean, I'm sure you also
definitely
started watching in COVID. So a lot of people are starting to understand that now, and I'm happy with that.
Do you think that's because of Drive to Survive?
Definitely, that played a huge role. I think it started in 2018, and by 2020, like, especially with COVID and everyone watching, it like blew up. And you see now there's many fans, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fast forward 5 years ago, I can imagine myself sitting there watching Formula One.
Yeah.
And just because you had nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
COVID really ignited it.
Exactly.
But moving on to adapting to challenges, like you mentioned, it's so hard on what you must go through, conditions. How do you adapt to different weathers, time, travel? It must be a lot on your body.
Yeah, it's a lot, you know, with jet lag and the traveling. I think what plays a huge role, and is something you can't control, is experience. So I've done it so much that I've just gotten used to it over time. But, you know, you can do these little things to help, which is like adjusting to jet lag on flights and stuff like that, and calling your family, reminding yourself of home. So I've just kind of gotten used to that, and it's okay now. So.
And how do you balance mental challenges? Because it isn't just about you sitting in a car and driving really, really fast. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's so many mental challenges that come along with it.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
I think mental performance is one of the most important things in this sport. I mean, I struggle sometimes with putting pressure on myself. I don't really feel external pressure too much because I've zoned that out mentally. But what I struggle with is putting pressure on myself, and what I try to do is meditate every day and, you know, try and clear my mind, especially before I drive. And that really helps. And keeping that cool and composed mind during racing just helps me excel and go quicker.
Now, on a lighter note, who is your favorite F1 driver?
Definitely Lewis Hamilton. I mean, I've been watching him since I was young, before he was in Mercedes, even back in McLaren in the early days. So he's been my idol for a long time, so I've looked up to him all my life.
Are we seeing a little bit of a pattern? We got the braids going on as well. So, I mean, who wouldn't you like? I mean, obviously we all look up to Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
He's a great driver. Who was your F1 role model?
I think for a long time, my role model was probably Senna, actually, because the way he looked at things, the mental power he had, a lot of things that he said I learned from. And Lewis as well, but I think Senna played a big role on teaching me about the mental side as well.
And what do you think of the next season's lineup of F1 drivers? It's been a bit of a silly season.
Yes.
Lewis to Ferrari.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a very big shake-up. I mean, I've been so entertained just watching all of it unravel, all of it unfold. But I'm really looking forward to Hamilton at Ferrari. I mean, it's the dream team. I'm sure you're excited as well.
I am.
So.
I'm very excited. Ferrari all the way.
Exactly.
All the way.
I'm sure everyone is looking forward to it. So
Definitely.
Yeah, I am too.
And could you imagine a F1 track in Sri Lanka? A Grand Prix in Sri Lanka?
I can imagine it. I've dreamt it so many times and like racing on it. I think one of my main goals actually is after I retire is to make that happen and see within the next few years or the next lifetime for me. But I would love to see that. I've definitely dreamt of it before.
And where would you imagine it?
I think a Colombo street circuit would be pretty cool, right?
Street circuit down Goldface Green, throughout the hotels. Honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't already happened.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
And like, I mean, I think one of the things that I often think about when it comes to drivers is what they go through before a race. Do you have any superstitions, like putting the right glove on first, tying your shoelace extra tight? Like,
I used to have superstitions like always eating ice before driving, actually. Because, okay, that actually helped cool my body down as well. But that was always a superstition I used to do. And I realized I got too sucked up in superstitions, and now I don't have anything because I realized it's useless for me. I mean, it could help other people, but now I have no superstitions, but I do have a ritual, which is 1 minute of just clearing my mind before I drive when I'm in the car, and then I just drive.
I see a lot of drivers, they tend to sit in the car and they sort of like picture them going on the track and just filling all the indicators and everything like that, hitting the apexes. So is that something that you do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see all the F1 drivers and everyone getting in the cars very early, and that's not only to just be prepared like so that the race starts, but also to just clear your mind and be in the zone in the car, and then you start driving. So that really helps. And
do you have a hype song?
I have a few hype songs. I don't listen to them every time, but let's say All of the Lights by Rihanna, that's a good one. The F1 theme song, actually, that's a great hype song. So I listen to that, yeah.
That's honestly, I think there's no better song to listen.
I think everyone is hyped up by the F1 theme song.
They really are. Yeah. Every time you watch a Grand Prix, as soon as that comes on, everyone's like, all right, sit down, it's here.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you have a favorite track to drive on?
Yeah, I'd say probably the Abu Dhabi circuit. I raced there in January in F4 UAE, and I really enjoyed that track. I mean, I'd say it's quite underrated. The hotel section and the long corners, I really like that track, so yeah.
And is there a track that you haven't driven on yet that you're dying to drive on? If you were told tomorrow that you're driving on this track, which one would it be?
I think everyone's going to pick this one, but it's Monaco.
Definitely.
I mean, the history and just how it looks, I really want to drive it. So
and
yeah,
I mean,
Monaco.
Senna driving on Monaco.
Yeah.
The history behind it.
Exactly.
And also the yachts.
The
rich lifestyle.
The vibe. Yeah. I mean, it's and the circuit itself is just it's god tier. It's on another level. So yeah.
And if you could describe your career and your journey in a word or a sentence, what would it be?
Improvement. I feel like my whole career I've been improving. I mean, when I started, there was no way I could drive how I am now. And it's the same in any sport. I'm sure like Usain Bolt couldn't set the world record the first time he ran. So I'd say I've been improving my whole life, every race, every career, every lap. So, and that's how it's still going. I mean, I'm in F4 now. I will be in F3 in a couple of years, and then F2. And I just have to keep improving with every car, every track. So yeah.
And how important is it for you to have such a huge support system with your family, your team? Can you explain a little bit about how they help you on your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I mean, my family has been there through the whole process. I mean, they've come with me to races and traveled with me everywhere, and also they've sacrificed a lot of time with me when I'm away, and sacrificed school as well when they come to see me. So they support a lot, and I really appreciate it. I don't even see it as pressure when they come to the races and stuff. I just see it as support. So they've played a big role in being there for me, which I really appreciate.
And I mean, at just 17 years old, what would you tell your younger self back in those karts?
I would have just said to relax, you know, like whatever happens, happens, and you just keep doing your thing, because and that's what I still say to a lot of the younger generations who are starting karting. Like, just be relaxed, you know, do what you need to do, but don't overthink things, and you'll get there. Just put the work in and don't doubt it.
And that's moving on to my next question. What would you go ahead and tell the young kids that are going to the kart every week, that are trying to be exactly like you, because you are a role model for the motorsport community in Sri Lanka? What is one thing that you would tell them to do besides the overthinking part? How would you motivate them?
I'd say that if you put the work in, you will get there. So I think that would give them a lot of reassurance, you know, because it is true. If you put the right work in and you don't doubt it and you keep working on yourself, you will get there and it will work out. So that's what I'd say to them.
And now explain what your next steps are. What is next for Yevan David?
So currently I'm racing in Formula 4, which is the starting blocks of the ladder to F1 after karting. So next year I will probably be racing in the European F3 campaign. So that's all over Europe, all the tracks like in Austria and Belgium.
Wow.
So that would be the next step next year. And then the years after, it's not confirmed yet, but I'm looking to go to Formula 3, like global F3, which is all over the world. They go to Australia and stuff. And then it's F2, which is the same as well, global. And then the next step is F1. So that's the next few steps.
That is crazy to think about that. And of course, moving from where you are and going to Formula 4, the training must completely shift. Or does it?
To be honest, it's actually quite similar. I mean, it's the same process, the same things. Obviously, it'll alter a little bit. Maybe you do more weights in the gym, more stuff like that. But the mental training is very similar. So actually, yeah, it is quite similar.
Great, great. And finally, I would love to ask you, what are your Formula One predictions for the rest of the season?
I don't want to say anything too soon to jinx anyone, but I would say Lando for the championship. I mean, he's only 78 points away, but I think we could see it happening. McLaren's getting up there, so it'd be cool to see Lando world champion. And what about you?
Oh, okay. As a Ferrari fan, definitely I would love to see a championship from Charles, but I'm not too sure. I think he's deserving of it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I always love seeing Hamilton up there, but realistically, I'd have to go for the McLaren side.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
As an Australian, Oscar Piastri, I mean, he's gunning it right now.
Yeah, of course.
As he's 21 or 22.
Yeah, it's his second year in F1, so yeah.
That's crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining Papare today with us. We wish you the very, very best, and we know for a fact that we'll be seeing Yevan David on the F1 circuit very, very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jordyn.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.